One. Welcome back, everybody, to another Upland AMA. Our last one we did, I think, was during Genesis Week. So it's the end of the year here. It's time for another AMA. The roadmap has dropped. So thank you very much for joining us live. I am joined by founders Dirk and Idan. We're also joined by Matt, a.k.a. you guys know him as General Mort. Thank you, Dirk, Idan, and Matt, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah,
it's Turkey Day almost.
Already. Can you believe that? It came so fast. So
I truly cannot.
So thank you very much, everybody, for being here in chat. We're going to take some of your questions. We had questions submitted on Discord previous to this that we're going to review. We're also just going to talk a little bit about our vision for the future. Dirk and Idan will share some insight on that as well. We are also going to be giving away some UPICs during today's stream. So there is a form actually pinned at the top of chat here on YouTube. Make sure you fill that out, and we will announce winners periodically throughout the show. So let's start with, we had some big news a few weeks ago with our fundraise news that we dropped. Dirk, would you like to speak about that for a minute?
Yeah, that was super exciting for us. We announced it early November during NFT NYC that we raised $80 million on a $300 million valuation, which was very important, a big step for us as a company moving forward. So we did get really, really interesting investors in there. The lead investor was Animoca Brands. You probably have heard of them. You know, they do a lot of other things. They're the owners of Sandbox. They're invested basically in all major projects which are in the NFT and the blockchain space. So that was very, very good. We had other investors who came in again, like C3 Management was our original investors, FinLab. We had Block One. We had another fund from the UK who joined us, and Global Founders Fund. So lots of people who want to help us and build out the company further. And so with the 300 valuation also, it's a big step, and the 80 million, the way we are going to use them is basically of course building out the team. So we're currently 80 people in Upland, so we're growing between 1 and 3 people a week, so quite strongly. And you will eventually see the output of that, let's say, starting Q1, Q2. Of course, we're just starting the process of hiring people, onboarding them, getting them up to speed will take a while, but then eventually we'll see more products coming out. So first of all, is hiring more people. We'll increase our marketing also, especially starting next year. We will do various things on across social media, but also planning on a couple of events. Stay tuned for all of that. And then last but not least, and we're starting out with people again, we're thinking about internationalization further, right? Because right now we already have people, as main development team is in the Ukraine, but we also have people in the UK, we have people in Germany now. And, we need to be all around the world in order to serve our global audience. But I hand over to Idan maybe to some more input on here.
Yeah, well said. And I think, the important takeaway also for anybody who's viewing is that, this gives us the confidence that we are going to deliver everything that we have laid out in the past. And not only that, we're going to also do it faster. So if up until now we've kind of like moved in serial, now we're going to start moving in parallel in the different buckets we've identified for as the main basically routes of progress for Upland, as it reflects in the newly crafted roadmap. So very exciting times, definitely for us, hopefully also for the participants and audience and players of Upland.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a super exciting announcement. We actually were all in New York when the announcement dropped, so made it kind of special that way. With the roadmap that just dropped, Matt Bianchi, maybe you could talk a little bit about the roadmap, but also about highlights that we were able to accomplish this past year.
Yeah, so first, if you guys haven't had a chance to read the roadmap, it is linked in the description below, so make sure to check that out. We have published also a brand new roadmap on the website with a whole new different look and kind of layout. So just to quickly talk about that really quick, we've basically broken things up in the categories. Before we kind of went by quarter, and that felt like they kind of boxed us in a little bit. So now we're kind of presenting this as, here's what our development initiatives are. These are the things that we're working on. All the timelines, of course, are tentative, but those are going to be the things that we're targeting in those specific years. So you can see on there that there's tags for certain quarters. Some things are tagged as short log or backlog. Short log meaning, those are things that we're, hoping to get done sooner rather than later, right? So to talk about some of our highlights, though, really has been a tremendous year, especially just since I've joined since April. We've done a lot of really awesome stuff. We've expanded the property to USD program significantly. Players have earned over $1.8 million via that program, and now we just in the past couple of weeks, or last week, I believe, expanded it so that all players who are Uplanders and above automatically get added to the NFT to USD program, which is what we're calling it now, by the way, not property to USD. So. Shortly after launching that program, though, we launched a Spark token. We introduced property development into the Metaverse. Players have built thousands of structures on their properties since then, and these things are primed to be used for things like Metaventures, player homes, galleries, those sorts of things. In August, we launched the first iteration of the NFT portal, allowing players to import assets into the Upland Metaverse. So it's currently in beta. We're going to continue expanding support for that to go back the other way, as well as expansion to other blockchains and asset types. Later in September, we announced, of course, our collaboration with the NFLPA, using our Upland Legits product. And that's been a really exciting endeavor for us, and going to continue building on top of that. Of course, in October, we did the collaboration with Spirit Halloween. And we created a variety of really awesome, spooky NFTs, which honestly, personally, I loved. And then, of course, as Dirk mentioned, we announced our Series A fundraise. But those are only a couple of the things. We've obviously beefed up our security measures. We've had a ton of various infrastructure improvements to support our growth. We've expanded the Metaverse from 3 to 14 cities. We've minted over 2 million properties, or 2 million NFTs rather. And we've achieved hundreds of thousands of monthly active players. Our trading volumes, both in trading and transaction volume, are at all-time highs. We recently broke consecutive days. We broke records a couple weeks ago. We've tokenized block explorers of NFTs. We launched the asset wallet, and we've tripled the size of the Upland team. So it really has been a pretty kick-ass year. Yeah. So to cover quickly kind of what's on the roadmap there, like I mentioned, these are things that we are currently actively working on. This does not necessarily mean that these things will 100% be deployed in Q4, but that's kind of what the goal of Q4 is, are these items. So be sure to take a look at that. There's a lot of updated information on NFT swaps, property collection updates. We talk a little bit about block explorer shops, which is definitely on the horizon for us. So that'll be our first Metaventures, which is what we were now referring to instead of player-owned businesses. We talked about some NFL primary markets, the essentials markets, more updates to the NFT portal, Metacard designs, as well as our developer team relations setup. So definitely worthwhile checking that out, and highly recommend everybody take a read. And you should get everything you need today, though.
Yeah, again, a link is in the description below, so if you haven't checked out the roadmap, definitely go check it out. And let's jump right into some questions here. We're going to start with some questions regarding the economy that were submitted. Our first question came from Discord, and it's from Gabi. He says, I know there's a lot of when exchanges, when crypto questions in here. I also know that you want to stay compliant with the SEC. Gabi wants to know, what's your reasoning for not basing the company in a different country to be able to list UpX on an exchange? He'd like the founders to tell us a bigger picture here. I think this one is for Dirk.
Yeah, so first of all, maybe for those who joined us recently, and the way Upland works is, we have this fixed exchange rate between UpX and US dollar. So that means $1 is 1,000 UpX. And the main reason why we actually created that is because we want to make it easy for people to understand what the value of properties or NFTs are in Upland. If the price would go now up and down, that transparency goes away, right? Because sometimes especially when it would be an external token, you don't understand, okay, is now the prices are going up because of the external environment, or is it because of internal things and so on? So that was one of the reasons. And the other reason is why we also leave it within Upland has regulatory reasons. Because in the US, you cannot just have an open economy and an open token has much more other things you have to take into consideration when you want to launch that. As you all know, we have the NFT to USD program, which is how we call it, where users can sell their NFTs or their properties for US dollars to other players. That we can actually do, but for that you need to have what is called a money transmitter license. We're doing that together with our partner TeliaPay, and that's the way we are completely fully compliant when it comes to regulation here in the US. Then one step back on the idea is when you think about money, Apex is a clear utility token, has a utility function, right? It's a medium of exchange in Upland. So when you think about the functions of currencies in normal life, they have usually, there's different definitions. Normally you have 4 functions. One is the medium of exchange. So you want to, you don't want to, because it has an advantage. You want to have shoes and towards a piece of meat in real life, right? Normally it's hard to trade those. That's the reason why you introduced money. That's why there's a medium of exchange. The second one is then a store of value. What people always hear about Bitcoin, right? Actually, you want to keep your money somewhere. You used to have that in dollar bills or euro bills or whatever. Now you have it in your wallet in terms of coins, but it's a store of value. Of course, the price goes up for Bitcoin, then the value increases also. The third one is then the unit of account. That means, when you buy something, there's a measure to it. There's a ruler to it. So that means it's $100 or there's 100 Apex or something, what it costs. And the last one is that is somehow what we call the standard of deferred payment. That means, you want to be sure that you can actually use it also in the future, right? I mean, you look at this back. So clearly, Apex is all about the utility, so people can trade within Upland, right? But it's not for that you can go and speculate it maybe outside of Upland, and that's a clear answer here, that we don't want to be Apex outside of Upland, the way we've built the economy.
Yeah, great question.
The other question was, sorry, I think why we're not just putting Upland outside of the US. Unfortunately, the answer is not as simple as that. So, of course, I would love to live somewhere, in a nice island in the South Sea and all that. But you cannot do this because, first of all, Upland is a US-based company. We started here. You cannot just move all the assets somewhere else. This is just not possible. And we still would be, we still had to follow regulations. If we want to sell in the US, there's no way around it, independent where you live.
Yeah, Idan, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, but just a small thing. So again, all of this basically allowed us to run, as Dirk said, the NFT to USD program in a legal and safe way, in a simple way. And we think, again, with some of the drawbacks that it brings, it also brings a lot of opportunity, because now we have a pathway for mass adoptions, which is really easy. And if you think about it, both in the US but also outside of the world, the vast majority of people who are not crypto aficionados, they cognitively think about value in terms of fiat currency. So for a lot of people, it's hard to understand what does it mean if I price something in 0.1 ETH. Ethereum, for example, or how the hell do I get that Ethereum to make that transaction? So again, having gone through these hardships, we did get access to very easy onboarding and a very easy way and convenient way to bring value both into Upland but also out of Upland in a way which is really also safe for everybody to operate in. So again, I think the way that we've done things is a bit different. Maybe when you compare to other blockchain-based projects, we think all ways are valid, but we see a high value for the path that we've chosen. Hopefully, it will play out as we've imagined.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gabi, for that question.
Yeah.
It's a question that comes up quite frequently, so it's good for us to review that.
Maybe I add one more thing is when you look into blockchain projects, right, and they have a token which is connected directly to the gain economy. I mean, really do your research. We can always recommend that, right? Because right now we're in a bull run, right? Obviously, everything goes up, everyone is happy, right? But just do for yourself a scenario when, prices are going down. Maybe, especially, everything's correlated to Bitcoin. So prices are going down to, Bitcoin goes down to $20,000 or $10,000, right? What is the scenario? What is happening then to your to the coin? And that's why we are very careful, analyzing that, how to connect, to the outside world, because it's so volatile, right? And our main objective, we said it many times, is really have a stable economy. That's the non plus ultra for us, to have trust in what we're building here, and that people know, when they purchase something, that the value doesn't go away tomorrow because, of some external developments.
Yeah, very good. Again, thank you very much, Gabi, for that question. Our next question comes from RDP. This is over on Discord as well. This is a question for Dirk. He wants to know, is there any concern about opening too many cities too quickly, causing a glut of unminted properties and negatively impacting the economics of all cities in the Upland Metaverse?
Now, that's a very good question. And as you know, again, the economy is about the stability again. And we are very, very carefully watching supply and demand, how much is out there. So, I mean, in theory, we could have opened up the whole world, right? And, people will be happy that they can now purchase something in Tokyo or Paris or wherever, right? But that's probably would not have been good for the economy. So that's one extreme. The other one is to be too restrictive and too open too little. And then what we've seen that in the past, when we actually did not open fast enough the cities, then the prices were going up. That was also an artificial inflation of the prices. So we have to find always the right way of of introducing new cities. And there's a couple of components which are there, right? One component is, of course, how much has been sold out, right, in that city, right? And right now, I think we have I think I've checked, but I think Nashville is probably the lowest right now, but obviously last as the last, but many cities or parts of the metaverse of Uplands are sold out at this point, but we're watching that. So first of all, okay, so selling out is one component, right? The next one is then of course we have this hub concept, right? So we want stuff happening in the East Coast, on the West Coast, right? Of course, when the West Coast sells out everything, we need to open up a new city over there and other hubs which we're defining. Yeah. Third thing is then when we have also partners. So sometimes, and as we know, with the NFLPA, which we have a partner now with Hyperloop. That's why we actually, when we did this partnership with Hyperloop, we introduced Chicago and Cleveland. There's sometimes a reason why we're introducing new cities. And then usually those partner introductions will also bring in new people which weren't in Upland before, because obviously we're tapping into their audiences or their followers, and that's also why we're opening up new cities. But again, also that follows always the stability in the supply and demand idea.
Very good. On the branding part of things, RDP has a follow-up question here, Dirk. He wants to know, is there any concern that Upland is quote-unquote too American? Obviously, we have all the current cities in the U.S. plus NFL cities. How quickly do you see it evolving to more of a global product?
And first of all, clearly strategy is to open up, all around the world. I mean, that's and we also last thing in our AMA back in February, we said, hey, we're thinking about opening up a city, first international city in 2021. However, then, we did get the partnership with the NFLPA. Then we decided, okay, now we need to first, we prioritize differently. And we said, okay, let's focus first on the US cities. So we're going to continue work opening up, the residual cities which are still there, where, we have NFL teams. That's one part. However, we're still also looking into, potentially opening up the first international location then next year, or locations. That depends also a little bit on the partnerships I just mentioned, because we are talking to quite a few international partners, and that will, of course, then include, for the reasons I explained before, opening up other cities in other countries.
Very good. We're going to move on to that's it for economy. We're going to move on to Metaventures. Before we do, though, we're going to give away some UPICs here. For everybody that's just joined chat, welcome. We are giving away UPICs during today's stream. The form to fill out is just linked to the top of chat there, so make sure you fill it out. And our first winner of 20,000 UPICs is the one and only Edmeta. Edmeta, congratulations. You've got 20,000 UPICs. This will drop to you probably within the next 24 hours, Edmeta, so stay tuned for that, and congratulations. Which brings us to Metaventures. Now, with Metaventures, we did just have a post about the new Ventures dues model. Matt, why don't you review that for everybody who might have missed it, or everybody here in chat?
Sure. So, again, highly recommend you guys go read that post. There's a lot of details in there, but basically, we're shifting away from something that we were previously considering, which is like we were calling the business license NFT. In that old model, essentially players would purchase the NFT, the business license NFT. They would be free to kind of sit on it if they wanted. So invited some problems. Number one, barriers to entry, what the cost for those business licenses would be, as well as speculation. Players may speculate on the value of business licenses. And then we run into problems with regulation. If players are using business licenses and they're sitting on them, do we have to issue more? We could potentially overinflate the supply. There's a whole lot of problems. So we're going to be shifting away from that to a new model called the venture dues model. And essentially, this is going to allow any player in Upland to open a business at will. Basically, what will happen is once they open their business, every business will have to pay a monthly fee dependent on a percentage of the median contribution to the community pool from all businesses from the previous month. So in other words, if a certain business type sells, let's say the median contribution was 500,000 UPIX, at the optimal level, you have to pay 10% of that. So you would pay 10,000 UPIX as a business. Basically, what this allows us to do is, number one, encourage competition. Any player can open a business at any given time and join the fray. In other words, this also encourages businesses to expand beyond their locale. If a locale becomes oversaturated with a certain business type, then it may make sense to move. Number one, to avoid fees and to capitalize on a new market that is still developing. So this is a much more dynamic system and allows for players to be much more competitive and much more engaged in the whole process. So it should encourage a lot more people to get involved, and should encourage more locale-based markets where players are actually using the whole metaverse as a whole, rather than centralizing in hubs and only having businesses and activities in certain hubs.
Yep, very good. Again, if you haven't checked out the post, go check it out. It's over on our events page, upland.me/events, and you can see all the information about the new venture dues model there. Our first question about Metaventures comes from Max Welllight, and this is for Idan. When will the different stages of the business beta occur?
Yeah, so again, I would refer to the roadmap also, because that's also when we're going to update real-time progress with our developments. So first will come the Block Explorer Shops beta, which means, again, the original group of 10 individual players who have joined at the beginning of 2021 to the beta program. They will be able to launch these Metaventures in San Francisco and Fresno, as originally anticipated. We are targeting to have that done by the end of the year, keeping in mind, things can move either forward or backwards a bit, but this is our target. So we're going to see probably Metaventures appear in Upland fairly quickly. And then the good thing is that basically, if you look at Block Explorer Shops, these are basically NFT resellers, right? So these are Block Explorer resellers. And that same infrastructure will serve us also for shop concepts like NFLPA fan shops, or NFT galleries trading the upload token, or any other type of business that resells an NFT. So you can imagine that these businesses will also follow suit as well. Then next down the road, we're going to have the outdoor decor beta group. So we're going to launch with that as well. That will happen in 2022, not in 2021. And this is a different type of metaventure where players actually produce content and manufacture it and then sell them as a primary market to other players in Upland. So it's a very exciting roadmap. It's one of our pillars today in kind of like advancing Metaventures and making Upland a hub of economic activity. And then more than that, just casting, when you think about today play to earn models, right? A lot of time it's going to be speculate to earn. And also basically in Upland, the means for players today in Upland to earn money is by basically flipping properties, right? And kind of like selling them for more than they bought them. This actually injects a whole new type of earn concept into Upland. And I think this will be, again, it's innovation. And when you connect that to other dots, like, for example, the NFT portal, being able to bring NFTs from outside of Upland, or even giving creators access to brand partnerships maybe in the future, these things will basically totally change the concept of how you play to earn, how you engage in the metaverse to earn.
Yeah, absolutely. We did get a question from Dr. TID here in YouTube chat, kind of just on the new way that it's going to work. He says, when it's open to everybody, will you be able to open a business in any of the cities?
Absolutely. And again, the way it works, it's a self-regulating model. So that means if you decide to open a specific business in a city that is already oversaturated with that specific type of business, you will have to pay more dues. So it will cost more to keep operating that business. So probably the smart move will be to identify the market that is both attractive to you in its virtual locality, meaning but also is maybe undersaturated with the business, so you have an easier time setting up shop and launching your business. In any case, the good thing is that it's going to be really easy to readjust, right? So if you feel that it's not going well, either you're an undersaturated market but there's just no traffic, or you're in an oversaturated market, but there's too many dues to pay, you can easily move cities and then reset up your shop and continue operations.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Doctor, for that question. VR Chessmaster writes in from Discord, and he wants to know, can business building structures be user-created to stand out from residential ones so that players can easily be able to distinguish between them? And if so, would this creation of these buildings be a business in and of itself?
Yes, that's a great question. It's actually several questions layered on top of each other. So let's start at the beginning. First of all, Metaventures, will be identifiable when you zoom into the map with signage and kind of like a 3D item identifying the shop. So when you browse the map just and look at buildings, the buildings that host Metaventures are going to really stand out compared to their other structures. So that's the first point. The other point is that we're also working on the whole concept of Metaventure discoverability. So it's both in-app. So for example, like we're going to create so people are familiar today with the blue and green dots, right, for marketplace and ownership markers. There's also going to be a different color markers for businesses. Also, we plan to add a business directory in each city. So when you're traveling and you get to a new city, you can open the business directory and just browse the businesses that participate in that city. And then further down the road, we also want to have discoverability even outside of Upland. So things like landing pages for businesses where you can advertise even outside of Upland, what you're doing and kind of like the inventory that you're hosting. Etc. So that's one kind of like part of the answer. The other part of the answer is about user-generated designs for structures, which is again something that we are actively thinking about, and we have different pathways to get there. And yes, eventually, players in Upland will have the opportunity to design structures and even operate businesses around using those as blueprints for other players to utilize when they want to build buildings. So the short answer is yes to all.
There we go. Great question, VR Chessmaster. Thank you for that. Big Papa Pump writes in and wants to know, with the Block Explorer shops and the new way that the business license is working with Metaventures and the Ventures do, is there a limit to how many of each Block Explorer can be sold if a player owns one, or can we sell it as many times as we want?
The only limitation for Block Explorer shops is the size of the inventory, and that is dependent on the size of the structure you're operating from. Other than that, there are not going to be any interference with what you are or not allowed to sell.
Very good. Zula and Cody rather writes in and says, will e-commerce be available from Metaventures stores located in other states and countries? He says, in the real world, I don't need to fly to Paris to buy a product from a specific store. I buy it and then they ship it to me. Is this something that will be coming to Upland?
Yeah, so I could give you at least a window to the way that we're thinking about it. And I think we have communicated that in the past. And again, we want to strengthen the concepts of virtual localities in Upland. That means that's why when you engage with a location in Upland, you need to be physically there with your Block Explorer. That doesn't mean that there are not going to be pathways to in the future to buy when you're remote. I'll give you one small example. And again, I'm not saying it as a feature that's going to happen, but one way that we can think about it, right? Maybe if I own an apartment or a house in the destination city, maybe we can allow the shop operator to ship that box to that apartment. So that both creates another reason why you would want to have apartments and houses in different cities, and also kind of like give a pathway to how do you get to items that you want to acquire, even though that even if you're far away from that city. So again, summarizing, when we launch, yes, interacting with shops and making transactions will require your physical appearance in Upland. The future may have further developments that make it easier to do it.
Very good. Great questions, Zola and Cody. Thank you very much for writing in. It's time to do another giveaway, guys. We're giving away 20,000 UPIX during today's stream. If you haven't yet, fill out the form to enter. Link is pinned to the top of chat. And our next winner is the one and only K-Tulu. K-Tulu, congratulations. You just won yourself 20K UPIX. That'll be dropped to you shortly. And
I hope we're making some people some Uplanders today.
Yeah,
it's always nice when we get people to Upland.
That's true. That brings us to property development. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about third-party development. We did just introduce Martin to the community. He's a new employee here at Upland. Very exciting times. Matt, do you want to just talk about a little bit what his role will be here and what we announced to the community regarding that?
Yeah, so we're definitely getting ready to ramp up the third-party development efforts. Prior to that, you guys have probably heard about us talk, especially if you've been around for a while. We've talked about it in the past. I think we talked about it in the last day, the AMA back in June. But we didn't have anybody to own it. Now we do. So Martin is going to own that process. He'll be the liaison between the community, the third-party communities, third-party developers, and the Upland team. So that should really help iron out some of those kinks. So we're really excited about that. We will be releasing more details on how to apply, what the process will look like, and potentially a new community where we'll house those efforts. So this does kind of play into some of our user-generated efforts. So as Idan mentioned, we are going to be working really hard on basically just expanding our program for user-generated content. If you guys noticed that we did just launch a holiday contest for the winter holiday ornaments. So players can now submit their ornaments to potentially be included and sold in the Upland store, and they will get a revenue share for that opportunity. So all the winners are going to receive 70% of that UpX revenue. And this is just kind of, in a way, it's a test for us. Obviously, it's a fun thing to do for Christmas, or sorry, for the winter holidays. And but it's a way for us to test these concepts, to see how these things are going to work, see how users can generate content, if it's going to be quality, and what do we need to do after they've submitted it? Is it require additional efforts for us? So this stuff is really going to allow us to play up, as Idan mentioned earlier, new earn opportunities. Right now, as we mentioned, the primary way that players earn in Upland is flipping properties, selling their properties for a high markup, etc. But we want to introduce a bunch of new ways to earn, and not only running businesses and operating on the secondary market may be an opportunity, but you may be able to earn as a producer, as a developer. Right? I might be producing 3D objects, ornaments, potentially property structures, things of that nature, and then licensing those designs to store owners. So there's going to be a really robust economy and a lot of opportunities for players to earn in the metaverse. So we're really looking forward to ramping up those UGC efforts, finding out what the right way to do it at scale is going to be, and then just moving from there. So just stay tuned on more details on that. We're really excited about that aspect, and should be having more information in the next couple of months.
Yeah, if you haven't yet, come join us over on Discord. A link is in the description below. You can see we have a holiday creations channel there, and you can see players collaborating and also what they're working on that they're going to be submitting to us. It's all very good.
It's super awesome, and if you guys want to get involved in the contest, there's also a video contest that we're going to be letting players do, where we're going to allow players to put their videos on top of their properties. It'll appear kind of as a little button, and then the best submissions there are going to be included in a tour. So definitely go check that out. There's a link to it on the events page for the winter holiday contests. Highly recommend that anybody with design development skills get involved.
Yeah, let's jump into our next question. This one is from City Runner regarding property development. He says, I'd like to hear your ideas about monetizing buildings. Spark is obviously something that's valuable and expensive resource that we have used to create buildings. So far, we know buildings can be used for businesses, which is great news, but we also know there will be a finite number of businesses that can operate in a city before fees become cost prohibitive. So what other ways will buildings be monetized? How can we rent to others? And what would be the tenant's incentive to rent from us?
Yeah, so first of all, as it relates to Metaventures is absolutely true, but keep in mind also we are going to have a lot of different types of Metaventures spawn up in cities, so that is one part of the demand. The other is, again, utilizing your Upland structures as your home. And again, this is something we have, again, still in the backlog, but absolutely is on the top of our minds today. First of all, to create those in-home experiences where you can actually start utilizing all of the NFTs in Upland that are not visible on the map, such as, for example, Legits or your, or the wax collectibles you've imported from the NFT portal, et cetera, et cetera. So you can actually use your in-homes. And then there's going to be other utilities for what you can do with the apartments or the houses you either own or rent from somebody else. Again, such as the example I gave beforehand about being able to ship maybe goods to that apartment. And there are going to be more down the road. So again, we know that one of them, again, Metaventures is a big thing that's going to increase the utility of structures in Upland. But then in-home experiences, home addresses, these are also going to drive basically the need and why you would even want to own a structure or an apartment in Upland.
Yeah, we also got a lot of questions. That was a big one there about buildings, but we got quite a few submissions about neighborhood collections. And City Runner, I think, summarized the questions well. He says, "I'm also interested in hearing more about neighborhood collections introduced by the Upland team in response to player efforts in the Metaverse to build their community." Related to the questions above, we have also heard player residences will tie into all of this. Can you share more insights for those of us working hard to strategically develop neighborhoods in Upland?
Absolutely, and I also throw another thing in there, which is governance. So again, we always envision governance to start bottom up in Upland. So it's going to start probably on your neighborhood level, and maybe propagate to the city level, and etc. But yeah, absolutely, it's on the top of our minds. We are working on the models for neighborhood collection spawning. We have just not yet have the chance to introduce it yet to the Metaverse. Nothing has changed really based on what we communicated up until now. Collection spawning is going to be a thing. Local governance, again, slowly stemming bottom up, is going to be a thing. It will just take us a bit of time to deliver that.
Yeah, great question, City Runner. Thank you very much for both of those. 1Ds writes in and wants to know, is there an ETA on being able to put 2 buildings on one parcel, assuming that they both fit? Also, garages. Are garages going to be structures coming to the Metaverse?
I mean, I can't relate to garages yet. I can tell you that when we introduce cars to the Metaverse, they are going to have to be, at least initially, parked on top of owned properties when going from one place to the other. In terms of, remind me, sorry, what was the first one?
2 buildings on one parcel.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, currently it's a technical issue. Again, there's no technical problem. We just need to develop that ability to put multiple kind of like NFTs, both either tethered or untethered. I can tell you that by the time, for example, outdoor decor shops launch in beta mode, we will already have had that ability to use multiple items on top of one property. Again, this is a matter of just getting there in terms of our roadmap, and it's on the immediate roadmap as well.
We also had quite a few questions about structures for properties that are too small right now to put any current structures on, and also ones that are super huge. Is there going to be anything coming for either of those types of properties?
Yeah, absolutely, and it will tie again both to models that we introduce and models that the community introduces and get approved by the Upland team. At the end of the day, having multiple items on top of property also addresses some of the concerns about bigger properties. So you can now kind of like design better use of the space, and also space for things like, again, either cars or outdoor decor, or crafting your parks or whatever. So again, multiple items is a big part of it. User-generated content is another big part of it. Again, we'll absolutely get there with a bit of patience.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for submitting questions regarding property development. We're going to jump into cars next, but before we do, we have one more giveaway here for UpX. We're giving away UpX. You can fill out the form linked to the top of the chat here. And our winner is Mastermind1. Mastermind1, congratulations. You've won 20,000 UpX, and we will drop that to you shortly. Congratulations, and thank you for joining us today. That brings us to everybody's favorite topic, cars. We have so many questions about cars. I'm not sure, Idan, if you want to just give an overview of cars, if you have anything to share regarding cars. Everyone wants to know, what's up with cars?
Do we want a sneak preview? I mean, do you want to take a quick vote?
Yeah, everybody in chat, if you want to see cars, drop a C. Drop a C in chat right now. I mean, we're about to see chat just go crazy here. Yeah, yeah. Drop a C in chat if you'd like to see a sneak preview of cars. Then there they come. There goes. It's like crazy.
Nobody wants it. Huh? Okay.
No, yeah, nobody.
I don't think we should do it.
Okay, let me show you really a quick zoomed out, version of the first car offering in Upland, and as you can see, there's multiple versions and kind of like designs for cars. Each one of them you can imagine how it has different utility in terms of its capacity, passenger, cargo, performance, etc. And then also some rarity levels where, similar to the real world, you have your base models and then you have your kind of like a bit more advanced models. We've been working on these cars with Crypto Motors, awesome guys, amazing car designers. I can't wait to get there, to get those models into Upland. As you can see, again, walking through these models, we're going to have the pickup truck, the sedan, the sports car, the SUV, the van, which has a cargo and a passenger variation, and everybody's favorite semi-trailer truck. So soon to be in Upland. Hope everybody's excited about it.
Yeah, those are cool. I would like the semi-truck. I think the semi-truck driving down the road in San Francisco would be sweet. I see Dirk as a sports car guy. I think Dirk would be in the sports car. And Idan and Matt, I see you guys as SUV guys. I don't know why, but that's just how I see it.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about cars, right? So everybody gets like emotional about one of the, like somebody's, hey, I want the semi-trailer, I want the SUV. So I think it's a really interesting future when cars are introduced to the metaverse, and this is going to be the first time like it's not just a collectible, right? Like there's utility, there's racing, there are big plans for cars. And by the way, the NFT itself is going to be super elaborate, like we always love to do and innovate, right? So again, we're going to things like tracking odometers and how do you handle situations where a car can get into a damaged state, either by in a race or in an accident, etc. So a lot of cool stuff coming. Can't wait to share with everybody.
Yeah, Sky404 writes in and says, "What will the cost of cars be, or how will cost be determined?"
We will share that information. Obviously, we're working on our models, not in this AMA probably.
All right. Nidjat writes in and wants to know, what about other types of transportations, boats, ships? Are those coming to the metaverse as well?
Yes.
But
again, I just want to say again, everybody wants to know timelines, right?
Yeah.
And again, today or in the past couple of weeks, we're moving more towards, again, we can lay out the way we're thinking about things. And absolutely, yes, there's no reason why there wouldn't be transportation modes in terms of boats that are, that can operate over bodies of water, obviously, or any other type of transportation. So it will happen eventually. Does it happen in 2022 or 2023? It's hard to say right now.
Okay. And last question regarding transportation. EH405 writes in and says, a few weeks ago, the roadmap stated that the functions for the fees for airport terminals will be changed and is in the process. He says, I don't see it there anymore. Is this concept still in the works?
That has not changed. It's just part of the backlog, which doesn't manifest on the visible roadmap. Hopefully, we will get to that as well.
Very good. And then he wants to know, could you shed any future plans on airport terminals at this time?
Nothing that we haven't communicated in the past. So,
okay, very good. That brings us to cities, guys. It's cars. We ripped through cars really quick. Hopefully, someone screenshot it and share that in Discord. I'm sure it's already been shared there. Very exciting for cars. It was the feature that everybody had questions about. That brings us to cities. And before we jump into cities, we did actually release some information regarding the new city tiers, how city tiers works. Matt, could you review that for everybody who might not have seen that announcement real quick?
Sure. So quickly, just to reiterate how cities were designed in the past, we typically had three city tiers. You were either a low city tier, medium, or high. And this basically had implications on send fees and transportation and stuff, but it wasn't super well defined, and it didn't account for the dynamic nature of cities across the globe. Right? A tier 1 city being in Manhattan, or rather Manhattan being a tier 1 city and Chicago being a tier 1 city, makes sense on its own, but the reality is Chicago is like 1 million times the size of Manhattan, so it doesn't really make sense to box it in the same category. So basically what we've done is we've designed a matrix that allows for us to account for these different factors. So each city will basically be scored 1 to 3 based on size, property pricing, and iconic factor. So the icon factor is basically, what is that city's global significance? Is it a global powerhouse? It is a city hub. And all of those things together will basically determine what the send fees are, what the FSA allocation is, whether or not it has an airport, how many landmarks are there going to be, how many collections, those sorts of things. So this allows us to really expand the variety of city tiers and basically just make it a lot more dynamic so that we can better account for that city's culture, that history, everything. So, every city moving forward will basically be designed under this system. So it gives us a clear kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Guideline for how to approach each city going forward. Keep in mind that there will be some times where you may have to go off script. Even still with the, this matrix system, we can account for way more variety, but every now and then there may be a city that still kind of doesn't properly fit the mold. So there may be times where you have to make adjustments based on that. But this should account for probably about 90% of cases going forward.
Yeah, again, this is something we announced. You can go see all the details, upland.me/events. All the information's there. Make sure you go check it out. With that, Dirk, we got a lot of questions on, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but maybe we could just review again for everybody. Our strategy on new city releases. How do you decide to release a new city, especially international ones? A lot of players asked. And then also with regards to the NFL cities opening up, are we going to open those up first before moving anywhere else? Or what's our overall strategy when it comes to city releases?
Well, I touched on that already, right? And I saw there was also the question is what is the optimal amount of cities?
Yes,
right?
What's the optimal amount? Correct. What is the optimal amount of cities?
Yeah, a clear answer for everyone. So it's 42 because it's half of 84. So that's the optimal amount we're striving for. Okay, jokes aside, but again, it's the same thing I said before. It's all about supply and demand and how we open up new cities and what the rights and which countries. It depends. If we go to other countries, we have partners there, right? We kind of open it up. Or, of course, we're looking. I mean, we have, as you all know, we have very little data about our users on purpose. But we know from Discord, right? When we have we have obviously French, German, other speaking channels. When we see there's a lot of activity, we can assume that we have a lot of players there. So these are all the components which will which make up our decision where we're gonna open up new cities. One thing we also currently actively discussing here in the go-to-market team is also we always said we mentioned once the franchise concept which has probably different ways of working together with the community. We have the Upland Contributor Network, UCN, the broadcasters, the moderators. But we're also actively thinking about having maybe, I don't know if that's going to be the final word, with some kind of ambassadors, right? So people who live in a city who help us, understanding the city better. Obviously, we don't know all cities around the world, and maybe if some local meetups, and that person would help us organize those and get some people together. So these kind of things we want to drive forward and get a better understanding of course, of existing cities. But then also maybe I can also imagine that we do some kind of research, right, and see where what people think in international cities should be, because we always want to somehow involve the community also in our decision making process here.
Yeah, great question. Everybody, I mean, we got a ton of those questions in, so thank you very much, everybody, for asking that. We have a question that I think Matt would be at best here. Sky404 writes in and says, I'm an Upland player, but I currently don't see the importance to traveling to Manhattan or San Francisco. He says it's completely sold out. The floor price is too big for me. He wants to know what in the future will inspire players like myself to want to travel to other cities.
Sure. So go ahead, Dirk.
No.
Okay. Basically, there are going to be different activities, different things going on in each of these cities, and this really does tie into this concept of the city tiers that we discussed. One thing I maybe touched on a little bit earlier, but or maybe Dirk and Idan did, but it's city hubs, right? We are kind of starting to classify certain cities as hubs, and then we're going to start looking at certain cities as being expansion cities. A good example is, Staten Island and Brooklyn in New York. A lot of people, even in real life, will live in those kind of neighboring cities and capitalize on the economic power of the hub city. There's probably going to be the same case in Upland. There will probably be, higher variety or maybe more powerful economic activity inside of these hub cities, and that may be where you want to go to conduct business, to do other things. But at the same time, of course, there's always going to be activities and events and different types of things to do inside of the Upland Metaverse, which is going to encourage players to travel to different cities. Even now, we have city tours and whatnot where players will leave their home city to go check out what's going on in the other one. So it won't be any different going forward.
Very good. We're going to talk about legits next. Before we do, we got 2 more giveaways. 20,000 UPIX. Fill out the form attached to the chat above and get in on the or get your entry in for a chance to win 20,000 UPIX. Our 2 winners are RDP Pfeiffer. Congratulations, RDP Pfeiffer, and also RPU Corp. Congratulations to both of you. You both just won 20,000 UPIX. It'll be dropped to you in game shortly. And that brings us to legits. This question is for Dirk. We got from D3 King. He wants to know, will there be any other partnerships with major sports like NHL Players Association, the NBA, or MLB?
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, as you all know, probably the market around NFTs has been exploded, right? As left and right, you hear, crypto companies announcing partnerships, they're taking over stadiums, like from branding perspective and so on. So there's a lot of happening in the space right now. But we are also active. So we have a partnership which is called One Team. So the One Team's working with all the player associations. So NFLPA is one of them. So that was the first one we launched. But eventually we have the possibility to tap into their other player association they're working with. It's not a given that we work with them. It needs to be decided. But under their roof, they have, for instance, the WNBA. They have the MLB PA, the MLS PA, so a soccer league here in the US. But there's no promises that this is going to happen. But eventually we'll check this out, and we have some conversations going on at this point. The other one is that we want to go, of course, soccer. Me coming from Germany, from where we call it football, or like in Europe, right? So the idea is here, of course, also we have that on the website. Also, we're talking to some of the soccer clubs around the world. So again, there's a lot of noise out there, and we have to see, how we can fit into, and our most important thing is we just don't want to, say, hey, do a deal and then drop, gazillions of NFTs and, what should the fans is. We are all about it. We want to engage somehow the fans. That's what we did with the legits, with the fan score and everything we have around that. And that's our vision when we present to the sports clubs. And for some sports clubs it resonates. And there's nothing definitely to announce at this point, but we can say that we are in conversations. Yes.
Great question, D3 King. Thank you very much for writing in. Hunters111 writes in from Discord, and this is for Idan. He says, I would love to be able to trade properties for legits and structure ornaments. Is this coming?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the only thing is that it's technically different for us. So if you remember, we implemented, like, the property NFT was the first thing we released in Upland, right? It was before anybody. It was back at the time where we hid the word NFT. We didn't use it because it confused people. It's before the rest of the world learned what NFTs are. And it was structured in a different way. Any consecutive NFTs we did under a standard that we call UNFT, and it's kind of like an adaptation of the previous DGood standard. And that allows us basically to have an easier time addressing technically different NFTs as kind of like an interface, right? So that's why it's easy for us fairly to trade, for example, block explorers for legits, for structure ornaments, etc., and any other NFT as well. The property NFT will need to be kind of like, there's going to need to be a bridge for us to do it easy. It's definitely coming. It's just will take another bit of an effort to get there.
Great question, Hunters. Thank you very much for writing in. This is a question for Dirk. Big Papa Pump writes in and says, with the introduction of blockchain hero cards this past summer, there was speculation about what the various cards would be utilized for. Is that something that we can look forward to more of in 2022, or has that been scrapped?
No, actually, funny things. I just came off a call this morning with Joel Com, who's one of the part of the blockchain heroes. So we were discussing, what to do next and how to integrate that better. So we have a few ideas which I cannot communicate at this point, but definitely there will be part 2 of everything. Stay tuned for that. So we're in active discussions here as well.
Very good.
In other words, soon. TM.
Soon. TM.
Soon. Yeah.
Soon. Let's talk about governance. This is something that comes up a lot as well in this community. Jackman writes in, and this is for Dirk. He says, I was really impressed with the announced adjustment to businesses. Looks like Dirk's economics genius is at work there, so shout out, Dirk. With the overarching goal being a complete member-driven world, how will administrative needs be met? Could the founders elaborate on the vision they have for governance in the future?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you. I don't know if I deserve it, but anyways, because this is always a team effort here. It's not just me. We're all working together on those models. But governance, yes. I mean, we always said our vision is, decentralized as best as most as we can, and that we have those virtual, we call that virtual localities. We have the neighborhoods that people will be able to vote for things in their neighborhood, what kind of shops they want to have, maybe if they want to develop a park one day, or this kind of stuff, right? Or all the nice things you can do in a neighborhood in real life. Somehow get this into the metaverse as well. How exactly we're going to do this? There's several ways to come about it, how you vote. But there's nothing to announce yet because the concepts are not fully thought through at this point. But eventually, to a short answer, yes, you will be able to decide in your neighborhood what you want to do there. And it depends also where you designate your home address and all these kind of things. But stay tuned for that.
Yeah, excellent question, Jackman. Thank you very, very much. Let's rapid fire some questions here. YK2012 writes in and says, what is Upland doing to crack down on players who strategically temp swap collection properties for non-collection properties of much lesser value in order to earn multiple UpX bonuses for the same collection? Idan.
What I'm hearing, I think I understand where this is coming from, and we are going to introduce some changes to collections, and in the roadmap, it's under collections rehaul. So we're going to start addressing some of these concerns. Again, some of the collection swapping is legit game mechanics that were by design, but the problem starts when people abuse those mechanics for personal gain, and such as like multi-accounting or funneling assets, etc. But we're going to make it harder and harder for this to happen, and we're going to also improve the way we crack down and kind of like make those cases visible and treated.
Absolutely. YK, thank you very much for that question. Don Paulo writes in, and Matt, this is something that I know you're working on currently. He says, would it be possible to have a more extensive introduction or tutorial for new players onboarding into the game, also explaining things like new city releases, how to get collections, and just general overall strategies and help?
Yeah, so we are working on a couple different things to aid that process. Some are more directed in-app, some are more on the web. So we are overhauling the web tutorial experience to include a vast variety of information. Eventually, I'd like to expand that to basically cover everything that you would need to know about the game. In addition to that, the hope is that we will be producing more videos and easier things for the community to digest, but also leveraging our community's content. You guys tend to put together a lot of really awesome content, whether it's web guides or videos. So we want to give you guys a place to basically be discoverable on the website. So that's also something we're going to be working on in the very near term. So yeah, just stay on the lookout for those things. We did, like I said, publish kind of a slight overhaul to the web tutorial recently. We're going to be working on more in-game UX stuff as well. We do have a new member of the team who's going to be more dedicated to the user experience efforts. So definitely expect those things to be improved over the next couple of months. Definitely want to solve that issue because it's not like we're not aware of it. Education is a tough thing in crypto, and we're working to be the forefront of it.
Yeah, I'd also like to just plug Discord again here real quick. We do have a new players channel that I highly encourage anybody that's new to the game, come check it out, meet other players. We also put together a helpful info channel that just lists all of the resources that are out there and available for you guys to take a look at. So make sure if you haven't yet, come join us on the Upland Discord. Goat Pickaxe writes in and says, what happened, or asks, what happened to the life tokens? Idan, any insight on the life tokens?
They live comfortably in the backlog.
All right.
So as we communicated, for those who don't know, again, Spark is a token that's, it's a resource token that's being staked to build any inanimate object in Upland. There is a similar concept for anything that requires life, so plants, animals, etc., to spawn, to manifest in Upland. And we envision that as something we called up until now the STEM token. That hasn't changed yet. It's in the backlog.
Very good. Another question from you from CW. Would love to know what property management and analytic tools are planned in 2022. Would love to see a Zillow-esque style property management tool in app to help with pricing.
Yeah, great question, and I think now we're gonna fork, and some of the improvements are gonna come from the team and manifest kind of like inside the game. But a lot, I think, will come also from third-party development as we put out the tools, as we give people the ability not just to get information from our backend systems, but also to connect their user base's identities to the Upland identities and start allow in a very secured way and trustful way. to start actually managing assets as well, and not just reading information. So I think a lot of those improvements are going to come from third-party efforts, which will do things that we have never imagined or do not have the capacity even to kind of like to tackle at this point. So I think that those are the two major ways we'll have improvements there.
Another question for you, Idan, from Big Papa Pump. He wants to know the ability to mine for Spark in wasteland areas is something that was spoken about before. Is this still in the plans?
It's in the backlog, similar to the STEM token, yes.
Excellent. And another question for Dirk. Irish Hopper writes in from Discord and says, what is the advertising strategy in terms of getting awareness of Upland out to everybody in the world?
So we have a mixed strategy, of course. I mean, first of all, most importantly, we do a lot of things in the community, of course. So we have mouth-to-mouth things, so people come on board, right, because they hear about the project or about Upland, and then we do traditional marketing, of course. One is, especially on social media, right? Probably seen our ads on Facebook or Instagram or Google, so that's happening there. We continue running lots of ads on Brave, because Brave, many of you users came to us through Brave, so which is great, and somehow they're overlapping type of audience. And then we plan on doing things starting and moving to the real world a little bit. So we're actually going to have some billboards in New York in the subway. So in case you're in New York, these things are coming up. We'll have some community events around that. We have some billboards at the highway here in San Francisco. So you will see a couple of interesting, new things. We have street teams, especially when there's some games around, some football games, which are out there. So we're trying out a lot of things where we can, acquire, more, interested users or players, and and also to get the word out about our brand.
There you go, Irish Hopper. Great question. Thank you very much for writing in. Nichiren writes in, and he wants to know about cafe chat, in-game cafe chat, and also he wants to know in the 2021 roadmap, do you see what in the 2021 roadmap do you see as supporting the Upland pillar of Connect from Play, Earn, Connect?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as for cafes, they are on the roadmap, and they are going to be a business, and hopefully it's going to happen in 2022. And beyond that, again, we see, as Nichiren said, Connect as a pillar. And even though it doesn't yet appear in the roadmap as dedicated pillar, it is going to become a dedicated pillar. And we are tirelessly looking for ways to start bringing communications from outside of Upland into Upland in different routes. So direct chats, NFT context chats, virtual localities like cafes that support interactions, chats, etc. So that's going to be one of our major focuses probably in 2022 already.
Great question, Nichiren. Thank you very much. Cyclonics wants to know, when will 3D executive models be rolled out?
Most likely together with outdoor decor items, which is basically the same type of NFT.
Great question. Thank you, Cyclonics. Bleakum writes in, and this is a huge question. In fact, even just here in YouTube chat, it's popped up many times. Dirk, will we go into virtual reality and AR in Upland?
Favorite question. Yeah, of course, we're based on the real world. We have to do something there. But maybe to take a step back, we always say Upland's going through 3 phases. The first phase, which you've seen basically, when we launched last year, this year, is the phase of the infrastructure. So we have land sales and, selling the base stuff. The next phase we're going to go into is what we call the economy, right? Where people were starting to transacting between them. We're running, operating Metaventures and other things. And then we have actually the third phase, what we call mixed reality. That's when we're going to start blurring many things with the real world, but I don't see that coming next year, to be honest. Also depends a little bit on the devices which are out, right? So, I think, of course, you can do something today already with a VR headset, or we can do something with your phone when you go think augmented reality. But personally, I'm pretty bullish on those glasses which have been announced. I think Amazon, Apple, they're all going to release their glasses, and that's going to be exciting. And we have to think about, how can we fit that into the metaverse of Upland, right? You walk around, you see maybe the Upland building in a place, and then maybe there's an NFT around you. There's a lot of things you can do, but definitely yes, we're going to do it. But not net. I doubt that there's going to see anything next year, but maybe Idan has a different view of that.
No, I can add to that, and absolutely right. But I can add to that just the ability to treat Upland as a true 3D experience is going to come a lot sooner than people may imagine, and it's most likely will relate to racing. So hang on, you're going to see small incremental steps to realize that vision, and then it will become suddenly very, very obvious what is achievable and how this can become actually like an AR VR experience in the future. For sure.
It's very exciting, and technology is blurring those lines even more between the metaverse and real life. It's fun to be a part of. We have one last question, everybody. Before we do, we have 2 more giveaways of our 20,000 UpX giveaways for everybody who's here joined us at chat. Nebulous is our winner. Congratulations, Nebulous. You've won yourself 20,000 UpX, as well as Roofier. Roofier, congratulations, and thank you for joining us today here on the AMA. Our last question, it's kind of a big one. I'll leave it to both Dirk and Idan can take turns. Where do you see Upland in 5 years?
Well, so first of all, we get asked that actually quite often. Interestingly, where it's all going. We all know that the metaverse is some new category, which has sparked especially lots of interest, especially the last 4 or 5 weeks when Facebook announced something. Because we were talking about the metaverse since 3 years or so, but now everyone understands. The same with the NFT. Idan mentioned it right now. Everyone knows what an NFT is, so it becomes much more mass audience. And speaking of mass market audience, we see clearly that we tap into that market, right? That we have a lot of players, a lot of people playing Upland. What we basically see is maybe on the abstract level that you can maybe see Upland as your daily companion, right? So you check in, maybe to play a mini game there. Hopefully we have lots of interesting mini games, with the developer portal, which are coming up. You entertain yourself, you do some stuff. Maybe you go one day also to a live concert, these kind of things. That's the entertainment piece. Then the second one is, which makes it so interesting, is the earn piece. We'll know that some people will probably start spending, lots of time there in order to make their living, right? And that's also hopefully, with the vision we've always had that we create, hundreds of, mini entrepreneurs or, jobs eventually. Because Upland is somehow the new land of opportunity, if you want to see that. And then the third one is, of course, it's a social place, right? We're starting off with the cafes, but there will be many other ways how people will be able to communicate and socialize with others and have some fun. But the most important thing is that we're really building something which is probably also hard to grasp for lots of people. We're building a new economy. We're building an open economy here, which is in this way that has not been really done before when you think about traditional gaming, right? There were always pseudo economies, things are changing, assets have been taken away from people, and so on. But here we're building really something which is almost like a country, right? And when it comes also down to the economy, people always think, hey, you have to all know that. If you think about it, that also in real life, you have a lot of economists running out there and trying to understand how an economy works. And usually when you're in that, especially when you at the university, one thing you get always told is, in economy, you can always look at it ex post, when something has happened, then you have perfect explanations why something has happened. But to predict anything, that's really a tough thing to do. And you just can have some assumptions and try to steer into the right direction.
Why don't they ever ask us what we think in 5 days? We can answer that a lot easier.
Idan, anything to add on to that? The next 5 years for you with Upland?
Yeah, so I mean, echoing everything that Dirk said, and maybe just offering just a slightly different perspective to that question. So if you've asked us that question 3 years ago when we just got started with Upland and there was absolutely nothing, we would have given you, an answer that is pretty true to that vision, but the chances then in hindsight of getting there, I don't know how I would have estimated them. Difference is today when we talk about a 5-year vision, now it's a completely different story because we have a tangible way to get there. And the more we speak with stakeholders and players and communities, we understand the impact of what Upland can become, and not just in 5 years, maybe even sooner than that. And it's incredible. It's an incredible experience. The fact that so many people are buying into what we're doing, and that just gets us into the mode of, everything we do every day is trying to understand how we add value to each and every stakeholder in the Upland ecosystem. and this is our pathway for success and for mass adoption, etc. So I'm stoked just to see what's to come.
Well, there you go, everybody. That does us for this edition of the Founders AMA. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Dirk, Idan, Matt. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. And David, I just also want to thank the Upland team in general. We are now 80 people strong and growing, and a group of brilliant individuals that work tirelessly to cast that value into Upland. So, big kudos and appreciate all of you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you everybody for being here in chat. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. If you haven't, come join us over on Discord. It's a great place to be. This community is amazing. And we will see you guys next time. We'll see you in the metaverse.
And happy Thanksgiving.
And happy Thanksgiving. That's right. Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.